Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, this is Gary for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and then examine the stories and the art. Here I want to talk a little bit about a genre of comics that I haven't touched on before, and I'm probably not likely to again. Well, at least not in this fashion. Because this, which is comics about hot rods, not being a motorhead myself, it's something I never got into. Sure, when I was a kid, I got a couple of an issue here and there of a hot rod comic book and the like, but I was never an aficionado. More interested in the storytelling and the artwork, and I was never big into cars. I never took auto shop in high school. I despise working on cars. It's only been out of extreme necessity that I've done so, and that necessity is mostly something needs to be done. It might be within my capability, and I don't have the money to pay somebody to do it. And even as a kid, I wasn't big. I had a few Matchbox cars, stuff like these. These aren't mine. These are actually my wife's. Ones that she's found lost at work, and a few Hot Wheels cars, and one track, which I played with some. I even did one or two model cars. Assembled one or two model cars. But cars have just never been my thing, as opposed to cousins of mine who, that's all they could think of. Driving cars, working on cars. They're always working on cars and auto racing on TV. Oh, they just loved it. And in fact, at least two of those cousins wound up working. One of them was a mechanic in an auto shop, and the other one was an aviation mechanic in the service. So it's the kind of stuff they were interested in, but not me. Anyway, so we're talking about comics, and want to take a look at this book right here, which is Hot Rods and Racing Cars, number 72, from Charlton Comics, 1965. And this book is featuring Clint Curtis and the Road Knights. And the cover here just briefly describing a scene that takes place in the first story. Although this story is not one featuring Clint Curtis. The book was broken down into like 4 stories. This had a story in front. First, a story. It's just a generic story about cars, car driving, and then had a Clint Curtis story, with then a biographical story about a race car driver, and I think it's based on a true story, and then another Clint Curtis story with a single page of single page dedicated to driving and highway safety, as well as a 2-page text story. Now, Clint Curtis, this character here, Clint Curtis, he's a teenage racing enthusiast and hot rodder. He and his friends were the Road Knights, a club who built and repaired racing hot rods. This feature ran for over 20 years. Clint and Company was introduced in the very first hot rod themed comic book called Hot Rods from Fawcett Publications. But he was dropped after 7 issues. Then he returned in Hot Rods and Racing Cars, number 42, that's his title, and remaining there for the rest of the run through number 120. And this title from Charlton Comics, I don't think I've ever seen racing car comics from either DC or Marvel that I am aware of. Yeah, it began in 1951 and ran until issue 120 in 1973. And you just don't have Hot Rod comics anymore. Just is not surprising. Now, one of the artists in here is in this first story is Jack Keller, who is best known for his work at Marvel on the Western comic Kid Cold Outlaw. So, and the other artists in here, I recognize their styles, but I can't remember their names. I think one of them is I can't remember his name. Who he did some ink, Reichert, I think. Or Reinhardt, something like that. I can't remember. Did some inking on at Marvel on Jack Kirby's work in the early '60s, as well as doing some of the Archie superhero stuff in the '60s. But I'm not sure because they're not credited. The only credit is not a credit is because here on the first page, Jack Keller has signed it. Of course, I could recognize his style anyway, but I'll just take a little look through here. Crack Up. This is that cover story. Kid in his hot rod went up to a landmark to view the scenes, come back home in his hot rod, and suddenly his brakes are out. He swipes a couple of cars. Guy's extremely angry, yada yada yada. He's a politician, big on highway safety, all that stuff. The kid cracks up his car to avoid hitting another kid on horseback. He's only slightly injured. He gets away okay, but he gets summons. He goes to has to go to court, and it turns out with investigation that there was a witness that saw that politician who had tampered with the brakes on that hot rod car. It's the very guy who is bringing charges against him and all this stuff because it was something for him to harp about in his political campaign. And then he got in trouble for that. Now here we have the little bug. Now I wanted to say the very nice draftsmanship on the cars. It's quite adequate on the figures. He did fine. It's not as dynamic, but the work on the cars and the action described in the cars is really nicely done. I have no idea who the writers in these were because there's no credits. Here we have Clint Curtis and the Road Knights. A friend is leaving his fancy, expensive sports car with Clint Curtis. Needs some repair work done on it, and while the guy is off on a trip someplace. And when you're done, if you can race it if you want, because they allow for because they have a lot of racing in here. So here's this other guy who's not the best. He wasn't allowed in the. This is the guy in the red car. His name is. It says I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to deal with it. They have a bit of a beef. This bully guy. He's in his cool Stingray. Notice the yellow car is an Oscar. It's one I'm familiar with, but I am slightly familiar with Stingray. And they talk. They really have the car talk on here. Said live rear axles, drum brakes, double overhead camshafts on a 4-cylinder engine, Weber twin choke carbs, and so on. This is a competition car, and stuff like that. Stuff that car nuts like to talk about. And they challenge to a race on this guy's own property. They get an off-duty police officer who's a friend of theirs who officiates on some of their races. They're unofficial races that they participate in, but they are friendly and done legally. And in the process, the kid, the big loudmouth, overloads his butt, crashes his car, but he's okay, and the like. Here's the bio on the race car driver who becomes a Le Mans champion. And then another cooled out hot rod. Another story. Here's the driving safety one. And then another one of Curtis and this guy who have a beef. They both wind up losing their licenses, have them suspended temporarily, so they wind up hanging out together with all their extra free time, doing a bunch of chores and helping neighbors work on cars, their neighbors' cars, and the like. And then they become buddies after that, and they realize what they had done. The whole thing, though, is they had put a strong emphasis on automotive and highway safety, and so they always have a real upswing at the end of the story, and I actually enjoyed reading it because I'm not a car nut, but as far as the stories are concerned, you get some decent characterization, you get some really nice artwork on the cars. I know I'm an artist, and I have a lot of difficulty with cars, but I can do them. So that is our foray into hot rods. I've got a couple other things about cars sometime in the future, which are kind of fun. And so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're a car nut, please like, share, subscribe. Share this with your friends who maybe are car nuts and don't know about hot rod comics. They're, for the most part, aren't all that expensive or collectible. There are a few. This one is in pretty good shape. It costs about $5. Others are available for just $1 or $2, and if you come across them in the bin, and they can. And if you're a car nut, go to town. If you have, or for little kids who happen to be car nuts and like comics, this would be a nice gift for them. So that's all I've got. Please leave a comment, and remember, comics are art.